Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya
Asmadacharya
Paryantam
Paryantam
Vande Guru
Vande Guru
Paramparam.
Paramparam.
Om Sahana
Om
Bhavatu
Sanavavatu
Sahana Bhunaktu
Sanabhunaktu
Sahaviryam
Saviryam
Karvavahai
Karavavai
Tejasvina
Tejasvinavaditamastu
Vaditamastu
Namaste
Ma
Mahavishwavahai.
Vidvishavahai.
Om
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 Shanti
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 Shanti.
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 Okay, so we had seen the Anupravesya Vakyam in the previous class where we said that Brahman enters the Jagat. So that was up to Tad Anupravesya. That was the mantra, Anuvaka number 6. And so we will go to the rest of the mantra now. What happens after Brahman enters the universe? So Satcha Tyacha Bhavata. So previously we said that Brahman was the Nimitta Karanam. Nimitta Karanam, the efficient cause, which means he has Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. All the three Shaktis are there. Okay. One second. Mute you all. Yes. All right. So all the three Shaktis are there. Now, when you say Brahman is efficient cause, it is the Nimitta Karanam. Then, when in the totality of creation, what should be the next question? If there is a Nimitta Karanam, what is the Upadana Karanam? Because you cannot have a product without the efficient cause and the material cause. So the next question is, what is the Upadana Karanam? So what's the answer here? Nothing can be created without the Upadana Karanam. So even in Pralayam, before the creation of the universe, remember the Avyakta Avastha, the Maya part of it, there is no creation of the five elements. Panchabhutani are not created also because this is Pralayam, the pre-Srishti Avastha. What is present? Only Nimitta Karanam is present. The Upadana Karanam, which is the Panchabahabhutani, which is Maya, has not yet come into being. Okay, so there is only Brahman. And if there is only Brahman and you need Nimitta Karanam plus Upadana Karanam for creation, what is the only logical statement you can make? That Brahman is both Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam. As a general rule, the Nimitta and the Upadana are separate, right? So Utsarga, as a general rule, the Nimitta and Upadana Karanam are separate. The efficient cause and the material cause are separate. Like, for example, the carpenter and the wood, or the goldsmith and the gold. But Shastra says that all these general rules, every general rule has some sort of an exception. So there is a apavada, exception to the utsarga. And where did you find this exception? You found it in Mundaka, which gives the example. Yatho, Runabihi, etc. Right? Just as the spider. So that was the example given. And therefore, Brahman, with the help of Maya and Karma, of course, they create the world. Right? Maya is the Upadana Karanam, but Maya is not different from Brahman. So we can never make a statement that Maya and Brahman are different. So those who remember the Vivek Chudamani class will remember the question, is it different or not different? Is it the same or not the same? And therefore Maya can never be put in a class. It can never be defined. You cannot say that Maya is different from Brahman. At the same time, you cannot say that Maya is the same as Brahman, and therefore Maya is indefinable. Vachaniyam, we said in that Viveka Chudamani class. The very word Maya, Yama iti Maya, that which does not appear to be what it is, that is Maya. Okay. So what is this Maya? At the Samashti level, at the cosmic level, the Maya can be taken as the cosmic mind. And all the vasanas, all your vasanas again at cosmic level. And therefore, the karma at the cosmic level and the minds at the cosmic level, they can be taken together as Maya. And so when you say that the nimitta and upadana karanam are one, you are also saying that Brahman, which is the efficient cause, is also the material cause. And therefore, from one angle, from the efficient cause angle, from the nimitta karanam angle, you can make a statement, Brahman is the creator. But from the upadana karanam angle, from the material karanam angle, what is the statement you have to make? There are two statements you can make when you talk about creation. Brahman from the nimitta karanam viewpoint is the creator. But from the upadana karanam viewpoint, what is Brahman?
Created.
Yeah. So you have to say that Brahman, from the nimitta karanam viewpoint, Brahman creates the universe. But you can also make a statement that Brahman becomes the universe. That is from the upadana karanam viewpoint. Right. So look at the next part of the mantra. It says Satcha Tyacha Abhavata. So Tyacha Abhavata is Tyat Cha Abhavata. So Sat Cha Tyat Cha Abhavata. That is the breakup of that part of the mantra. So Sat. So Sat here is not the Satchitananda Sat. Sat here is what is Thula, what has got form. So what is Indriya Gocharam, what the eyes can grasp, what all the Indriyas can grasp. So Indriya Gocharam is the meaning of Sat over here. So Sat, that which has got form, Sthula, whatever is Sthula is Sat. And Tyat. Tyat is a technical word. It's from, a Brahmanam in the Bhramananda Upanishad. So there it said that Tyat means abstract, which has no form. And for Sat can be taken as Sthula Shariram and Tyat can be taken as Sukshma Shariram. So at the cosmic level, Sat is the concrete Virat and Tyat is the Sukshama, the Hiranyagarbha. So Sat is Sthula Shariram, Samashti Sthula Shariram, and Tyat is Samashti Sukshma Shariram. Abhavata means becomes. And therefore that mantra, Sat Cha Tyat Cha Abhavata. You have to supply. Brahman becomes Abhavata, Brahman Abhavata, Sat and Tyat becomes the Upadana Karana. And earlier what did we say? Asrajat. If you remember, we said Asrajat, Tat Asrajat. That word Asrajat indicates Brahman as the Nimitta Karanam, because Asrajat means created. The moment you say created, that Brahman who is the creator is Nimitta Karanam. And here, when you say Sat Brahman Abhavat, Brahman becomes, that you are indicating that Brahman is the Upadana Karana. So there is a a section, a Brahmanam, in the Upanishad of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The section is called Brahmanam. It's called Murta Amurta Brahmanam. The visible and the invisible. The Brahmanam is dealing with visible and invisible. Murtam, Amurtam. Murtam has got a form. Amurtam is not got a form. And there we said that Murtam means Sat and Amurtam means Tat. Means that's what That's what I explained here just now. Sat means that which has got form, that which is Murtam, that which is Sthula, and Tyat. It's not Tat, okay, it's Tyat. Tyat means Amurtam, Sukshmam. So the visible universe and the invisible universe at the Samashti level, what happens? Brahman becomes both. So Sat Cha Tyat Cha Brahman Abhavat. Brahman becomes both the visible universe as well as the invisible universe. This is at the level of Samashti. Now, when you come to the level of Vyashti, we have Panchabhutani. The five Mahabhutanis are there, right? Here also, there is something which is visible and something which is invisible. So, which of the five elements would you say are Sat, Murtam, and which of the five elements are Tyat, Amurtam?
Amurtam is Akash and Vayu,
Amurtam is Akash and Vayu.
and Agni, Apa, and Bhumi.
Agni, Apa, and Bhumi are Murtam because they all got form, right? So at the Vyashti level, if you have to see, the same logic you apply. Thula Shariram, physical body, is Murtam. Sukshma Shariram is Amurtam. But remember that whether it be at the Samashti level or whether it be at the Vyashti level, Sthula Shariram is a product. Sukshma Shariram is a product. All are products only. It doesn't matter whether it is at the Samashti level, it doesn't matter whether it is at the Vyashti level. This entire visible and invisible prapancha is a product only. Okay. Now remember that the word Kyat, which we are translating as Amurta prapancha, the formless prapancha, the invisible prapancha, is not the Karana avastha. Okay, it is the Sukshma avastha. Why is it not the Karana avastha? Because you are talking about the creation of a prapancha. And that Karana avastha, the Antaryami, is not created, is never created. I hope you know what I'm talking about, right? Where do you know? From where do you get this deduction that Sukshma avastha can be created, but or Sukshma prapancha can be created, but Karana prapancha cannot be created? Where did we study that?
Sir, Tattva Bodha, where they say that it's avyakta, it's unmanifest, and because of uh, the law of matter and energy, where matter can never be created and destroyed. So it's always there in avyakta.
Okay, so that's right. What you're saying is right. But let's just revise that portion. This Karana prapancha, what is another name for it? What is the Tattva name for it?
Antaryami.
Antaryami.
Okay. What is another name for Antaryami? A more popular name?
Ishvara.
Ishvara.
Okay, so let's remember all these things because we're going to use this again and again. Antaryami is equal to Ishvara is equal to Karana prapancha, right? So, Samashti Karana prapancha. That Samashti Karana prapancha cannot be created, right? Because it is Maya itself. It is Avyakta Maya. Avyakritam, as we use the word Avyakritam. It is an unmanifest Maya, and that cannot be created. It is always there. It is Anadi. And therefore, when we say Sat, Brahman becomes Sat and Tyat. Brahman becomes the visible world, Virat, and Brahman becomes the Sukshma world, Hiranyagarbha. But this Brahman does not become Antaryami. Why?
Because that is Brahman only. Shakti, Parmeshwar
That
Shakti.
is the Shakti of Brahman, that is Maya. Okay, and Maya is Anadi. And therefore, you cannot say that Brahman becomes Maya. Brahman and Maya are always there. So, the only thing is, one is Satyam, one is Mithya. Therefore, you can very happily say Brahman alone exists. But whenever you say Brahman alone exists, remember, you are also saying Antaryami is very much there. But before Pralayam, there is no such thing as pure Brahman. Pure Brahman. It is pure Brahman plus Antaryami. Both exist. You are saying pure Brahman, but Antaryami is Mithya. It is dependent upon Brahman. A dependent entity is as good as not existing, and that's why Shastra very often says, Sat alone, Sadeva Only Sat existed. It doesn't mean only Brahman existed. Antaryami also existed. Because if you say Antaryami doesn't exist, then you are saying that Antaryami, Maya, was brought about, was produced, which goes against whatever Shastra tells us. Okay. So during the Pralaya Kalam, during the time when the world has dissolved, and before the next creation. So to use Puranic terms, during the night of Lord Brahmaji, right? The day of Lord Brahmaji is what? The entire creation cycle. I mean, when the visible world is there. When Lord Brahmaji goes to sleep, it is the Avyakta Avastha, it is Pralaya Kala. So in Pralaya Kala, this same Maya, which is today we are calling the Jagat, that same Maya is Avyakta Namarupa, and that is Avyakritam, that is also called Maya. So Maya has two forms, the visible and the invisible. And that's why in the Gita says, Krishna says, I alone have become the universe. Krishna, the Lord alone, Brahman alone has become the universe. And that is why we worship the universe. That is why the entire chapter 10 and 11 are there. To be able to see the universe as nothing other than the Lord. Right? Everything in the universe is the Lord. You know? Now, we have a very nice, like when I was young, we had a small lake near our house, in Kerala. And I remember my grandmother telling me, she took me to the river for my first bath in the river. And she said, which I still remember, that when you go to that river, you should never put your feet in first. Have any of you heard this? When you go to a river, never put your feet in first. What is the reason?
Maybe there is a crocodile.
Somebody said
Feet
it's a
would be
crocodile.
considered feet would be considered impure, so we should
Yes.
first bow or pray.
Because the water is nothing but Ishvara. Therefore, you first put your hands together, offer pranam. Therefore, you will see that many traditional people, when they go to the river, they put their hands in, take a little water, do that, and then go into the river. That's a traditional way, respecting nature as nothing other than Ishvara himself. Same thing, there's another prayer also, that when you get up in the morning, when you put your feet on the ground, before putting your feet on the ground, you should pray, asking for forgiveness from Mother Nature for putting your feet on her. So some very beautiful traditions are there. Many have gone, some we still remember. Anyway, to come back to our discussions, Karana Prapancha, Antaryami, is beginningless. It is Anadi. It was never created. It can never be created. It is always there in the form of Maya. Therefore, whenever we say Brahman created or Brahman became, remember it is only the Sthula Prapancha, Virat, and the Sukshma Prapancha, Hiranyagarbha. Out of this, which comes first? Hiranyagarbha comes first. The Sukshma Prapancha comes first. And that is why in the Mundaka we said the firstborn was Lord Brahmaji. Okay. Then you look at the next part of the mantra, Niruktam cha Niruktam cha. So Niruktam cha Aniruktam cha. The breakup. Cha breaks into cha plus a. Niruktam plus cha Aniruktam. What is Niruktam? Nischayena Uktam is Niruktam. What is Nischayena Uktam? That which you can talk about very clearly. Nischayena, very, very clear words. Uktam, you can talk about it. So Nischayena Uktam, Niruktam. In other words, what can be clearly defined is Niruktam. Okay, now in the context of what we are talking about, Niruktam refers to what? So you have to ask yourself, what am I talking about first? Go on, guys.
Okay, subtle only.
Sorry?
Subtle.
What can be clearly defined?
Sthula Prapancha, the gross.
Sthula Prapancha. Right? We are talking about Sthula Prapancha and Sukla Prapancha. So when you say niruktam, what is clearly definable is sthula prapancha, something which you can see, you can define the features. And therefore, aniruktam is something which cannot be very clearly defined. So that is sukshma shariram. So that's how you are extracting, right? Which are the words which mean what? Niruktam is clearly definable. So gross universe, Virat. Aniruktam is not so clearly definable. Subtle universe, Hiranyagarbha. Remember all this, to relate all this back, you just keep Virat and Hiranyagarbha in mind and keep making the references. Niruktam, Virat. Aniruktam, Hiranyagarbha. Then, Nilayanam, Cha, Nilayanam, Cha. Nilayanam, Cha, Anilayanam. Again, two words for Virat and Hiranyagarbha. What is Nilayanam? Nilayanam is a alambanam, a support. So anything concrete is a support. For example, on the earth, you can keep the car. Your car can be parked on the earth. Okay. So earth, Prithvi is Nilayanam. It is a support. While you cannot park the car in the other two, two elements, space or Vayu, right? So you can park only where support is there. And therefore, again, Nilayanam is a word, another word for Virat. And therefore, Anilayanam is a word for Hiranyagarbha. Okay. Right. That's why in Tattvabodha, it was said that Sthula Shariram is a Ayatanam. Ayatanam is what? The support. The place where the Sukshma Shariram can be stored. Nilayanam for Sukshma Shariram was Ayatanam. And Anilayanam, which is not a support, which is the supported. So in this case, Sukshma Shariram at your Vyashti level also, at the micro level also, your Sukshma Shariram is supported by what? By your Sthula Shariram. You saw earlier that the koshas were poured, ultimately all the koshas were poured into what? Into the physical body. So Sthula Shariram, that was the support. All the others are the supported. Anilayanam. Okay. Other two words, Vijnanam cha, Avijnanam cha. So Vijnanam here means the sentient universe. When you say sentient universe, we have to draw all our learning so far into it. Can you say that the Pancha Mahabhutani are sentient? You cannot. Why? Because they are matter, they are jadam, insentient. But they appear to be sentient. Why do they appear to be sentient? Because the subtle body is there. And therefore, when you say that this universe is sentient, any universe means not the mountains and the rivers, or the oceans, but the living beings. So when you talk about the living beings, remember the living being consists of Panchamahabhutani plus OC, right? The Panchamahabhutani is the reflecting medium, at least the Sukshma part of the Panchamahabhutani is reflecting medium. And therefore, the moment you say sentient universe, remember there is insentient matter plus RC. Okay, RC means OC is also there. So Chidabhasa Sahita Panchamahabhutani is the sentient universe. And if the sentient universe is being referred to as Vijnanam, a Vijnanam is what? That part of the universe which is without the RC, which is without the Sukshma Shariram. So this is the difference between a sentient entity and an insentient entity. Both are Mahabhutani, both are matter, but one is matter with Chidabhasa, with RC. One is matter without Chidabhasa, without RC. Okay. I hope you guys are with me so
Oh,
far.
Acharya,
Yes, please.
there's a little confusion in this that, I mean, Niruktam and Aniruktam we are
Yeah.
talking about, then what is the difference if that is also relating to the gross
Yeah.
and the subtle and between Nilayanam and Anilayanam? So how are Niruktam, Nilayanam and Anilayanam different? Where is the difference in
There is no
both?
difference. They are all different names for Thula Prapancha and Sukshma Prapancha. The entire set here is talking about giving different names.
All right, thank you.
Okay, right. Now, then we come to Satyam cha Anritam cha Satyam Abhavat. Okay, so Satyam cha Anritam cha Satyam Abhavat. So you have to break it up. Satyam cha Anritam cha Satyam and then Abhavat. Okay, this is a very beautiful little line. There are two Satyams and Anritam means false. So there are two Satyams and one Mithya. So in this unique little mantra, we are talking about all the three orders of reality. Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, and Pratibhasika. All three are being talked about here. So there are two Satyams occurring, right? Now, which Satyam refers to what? So you have to look at it this way. You read from backwards, from the back. Okay. So first one is Satyam Abhavat, which means Satyam becomes. When you are saying Satyam becomes, you are saying Brahman becomes. Upadana Karanam. Brahman becomes. That Brahman which is Satyam, it becomes. And therefore the second Satyam, Satyam Abhavat, that second Satyam refers to Paramarthika Satyam, absolute reality, Brahman itself. And Abhavat becomes what? Satyam cha Anritam. Becomes the other two orders of reality, which is what? Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika. Right? So your empirical world, the transactional world is Vyavaharika Satyam. And your dream world, your Swapna Prapancha is a lower level of reality. It's a reality still, but it's a lower level of reality called Pratibhasika Satyam. So remember that from the framework of the Vyavaharika Satyam, which means from the eyes of the waker, the dream, the Pratibhasika Satyam has a lower level of reality than the waking experience. So from the standpoint of the waker, your dream world, your Swapna Prapancha is Mithya. And Shastra is saying that, but there is another level of reality called Paramarthika Satyam, which is Brahman. And when you own up that reality, when you wake up to that absolute reality, which is Paramarthika Satyam, from that point of view, your normal Vyavaharika Satyam will also appear to be a Mithya. Therefore, what he is saying is that there is only one absolute reality, one Paramarthika Satyam, which Abhavat, which becomes the Vyavaharika Satyam as well as the Pratibhasika Satyam. Satyam alone is the absolute reality. Brahman alone is the absolute reality. But that same Brahman appears as your Jagrat Prapancha and as your Swapna Prapancha. And not only that, Yadidam Kinch, whatever else is there, you will now borrow the words from the previous part of the mantra. Yadidam Kincha Satyam Abhavat. Whatever else is there in this universe, that also Brahman only becomes. And that is why Tat Satyam Itya Chakshate. That Brahman alone is Satyam. That Brahman alone is Paramarthik Satyam. Okay, any questions? Very, very potent words. You should actually memorize this particular Anuvaka and think about it. And therefore, what you are saying is that the existence of the universe itself is the proof that Brahman exists, right? What is the proof, for example, that wood exists? The very existence of your chair is the proof of the existence of wood, because wood alone has become the chair. And since Brahman alone has become the universe, and you for that matter, when you say I exist, you are actually saying that Brahman exists. And therefore, never doubt that Brahman exists, because your very existence, the existence of any product, belongs to the cause alone. So when you're looking at the chair, wooden chair, you're looking at wood. When you're looking at the gold bangle, you're looking at the gold. When you're looking at Akasha, Vayu and Jalam, you are experiencing Brahman alone. And Tadapyesha Shloko Bhavati. In this connection, there is the following ring mantra. Okay, any questions?
So, Acharyaji, according to this, the corollary is that there is no experiencer and no experience. There's actually just one reality.
Yes, that is the ultimate, what you call, understanding. But again, whenever you say there is no, remember, you're always, you have to, at the back of your mind, you always have in mind that there is one Satyam and there is one dependent Satyam, which is called Mithya. So experience or experienced belong to Mithya. The experiencer who does not experience, right, who does not have a mind, that belongs to Satyam. You really
Brahma
cannot say
Satyam
that it's,
Jagannathya.
see, we always say experiencer is Satyam. That's the only way of talking, right? Only way of explaining. But really speaking, to experience something, you need a mind. The moment you say mind, you are in the area of Mithya, Vyavaharika Satyam. Therefore, at the level of pure Satyam, there is actually nothing to be said. You really can't say anything, because there is nobody to say. There is no mouth. There is no tongue.
So, on the transaction level, yes, with the experience and experienced has a differentiation.
Yes.
But and on the Paramarthika level, you don't really need to say anything, because it's just one, like
That is why we said on the
differentiation.
Paramarthika level, there can only be silence.
Only be silent. Thank you, Acharyaji.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So, Arvindji, are you there?
Yes, Ravi.
Could you chant Anuvaka 7, please? Asadva idam agre asit.
Yes. Om Asadva idamagra asit tato vai sadajayata tadatmanadgasvayamakuruta tasmat tatsukrutamukhyata iti yadvai tatsukrutam raso vai saha रसगह्येवा यल्लब्ध्वा नन्दी भवति को ह्येवान्यात् कः प्राण्यात् यदेष आकाश आनन्दो न स्यात् एष ह्येवानन्द याति यदा ह्येवैष एतस्मिन्न दृश्येनात्म्ये निरुक्ते निलयने भयं प्रतिष्ठां विन्दते अथसो भयं गतो भवति यदा ह्येवैष एतस्मिन्नुदरमन्तरं कुरुते अथ तस्य भयं भवति तत्त्वेव भयं विदुषो मन्वानस्य तदप्येष श्लोको भवति.
Thank you, Arvindji. Okay. So, I'm muting you all. Now, in this sloka, Asadva idam agra asit. Okay, so that agra is the gra over here. That's because Sandhi, if you break it up, Asatva idam agre asit. So idam agre, before this, remember, idam is what is the creation. Before this entire creation, before the entire universe, asadva asit. Only asat existed. Okay. So in this mantra, what is being said is that this entire creation was always there. It existed in avyakta avastha before it became manifest. So the fact is that there is really no creation at all, because nothing can really be created. Shastra says nothing can really be created. Ishvara also cannot really create anything. Right? In fact, he has never created anything. Matter cannot be created. Matter cannot be destroyed. And if you remember Bhagavad Gita, some of the discussions we've had, especially in chapters 2, Satkarya Vada was there. Means nothing can be created from nothing. If you have something coming, some product coming, there must have been one cause already existing. And therefore, if you are saying universe has been created, universe is born, then you have to admit, you have to accept, according to Satkaryavada, that universe is always there. That we also saw this in Bhagavad Gita, right? There's only a change of form from avyakta to vyakta. So that universe of yours has always been there in the unmanifest form. Then it comes into the manifest form, which you call creation, and then again goes back into unmanifest form, which you call pralayam. Similarly, birth and death are also at the individual level. Birth and death are also modifications. Avyakta to vyakta, vyakta to avyakta. And this is what is being said here. Asadva idam agre asit. Idam, this universe, asit. Asit is past, was indeed existing. Right? Idam asit vai, was indeed existing. In what form? Asat. Okay, now here asat can, the literal meaning, dictionary meaning of asat is what? Non-existent. Okay, so that is not to be taken here. Here asat means avyaktam, unmanifest, maya form. And therefore it is saying that indeed idam, this universe, this manifest universe, has always existed in what form? In the avyaktam form, in the unmanifest form. Okay, now what is the problem with taking asat as non-existent? If you take asat as non-existent, it becomes madhyamika Buddhism. We have done this also occasionally. You have to remember all this. It's called Shunyavada, something coming from nothing. Okay. And why should you not take this interpretation? So in his commentary, Shankara says, if you take the interpretation of asat as non-existent, then you are saying from asat, from the non-existence, sat janma asti. You are saying that sat, the existent universe, is being born from a non-existent cause. And that is from a non-existent karanam, an existence karyam cannot be born, that we accept. Therefore, you cannot take asat as non-existence, and therefore you have to take asat as avyakta, as unmanifest. So you have to say now that this manifest universe was always existing in a unmanifest form. So a question is asked, a question can be asked, should be asked. If the idea of the Upanishad is to point out that this manifest universe, Vyakta Prapancha, is being made manifest from what was Avyakta Prapancha, from unmanifest Prapancha, why does Upanishad simply not use the word Avyaktam? Right? You could simply have said Avyaktam idam agre asit. Why didn't he say that? Why did he not say that before all this universe came into being, it was there in avyakta format? Okay. So Shankara says, and this argument very often used by Shankara and in the Shastram, whatever is existing only in potential form is as good as non-existent. Why? Because potential existence is not available for any transactions. It is avyaharyam. It cannot be converted into a transaction. So, for example, you take milk. If you churn the milk, you get butter, right? But so you can actually say that butter exists in the milk in potential form. So there is potential butter in the milk, right? Now that potential butter is available for you to put on the bread only when the milk has been churned and the butter has been extracted, right? You cannot put the milk on the butter and on the bread and say that there is potential butter. You don't do that. And therefore, just like a potentially existing entity is not useful for any transaction, similarly, this potentially existing prapancha is not useful until it is actually converted into existing prapancha, right? Another example can be that in the gold lump, you have a big gold lump with you, right? In that lump, you have a potential chain, necklace, your potential bangle, but they are not available to you for putting on your neck or your hand until they have been actually extracted. And therefore, Shankara says asat has to be taken as good as non-existence. Therefore, potentially existing universe is called asat. The word asat here means potentially existing. Potentially existing is what? Avyakta avastha, existing in avyakta avastha. So Maya existed in avyakta avastha as antaryami in Brahman. That's what it means. Then look at the next part of the mantra. Tato vai sad ajayat. So you have to agree in the beginning. Tataha vai. From that Brahman alone, from that avyakta Brahman alone, which existed in potential form. And what is that avyakta Brahman? Avyakta Brahman here is antaryami, Ishvara himself. From that avyakta Brahman, sat ajayat. So tato vai, from that asat, Brahman in avyakta avastha, Maya in avyakta avastha, sat ajayat. So that's sadajayat, sadajayat, sat ajayat. Ajayat means born. Sat was born. And here, since asat refers to the unmanifest universe, sat refers to the manifest universe. And therefore, from that unmanifest universe alone, from that antaryami alone, the manifest universe was born. Tadatmanam swayam akurata. And next one. Tadatmanam swayam akurata. So, tat akurata. Tat is that Brahman. Akurata, he created what? Atmanam. So here Atmanam is not Satchitananda Atmanam. Atmanam is a reflexive pronoun referring to yourself. So he is saying that Brahman created himself. Right? He did not have any separate material to create from. There was no separate Upadana Karanam. He himself was the Upadana Karanam, Atmanam, and therefore Swayam. By himself, he created from himself. He is the Nimitta Karanam, instrumental cause, the efficient cause. He is also the material Karanam. So this particular mantra is the Shruti Pramanam for Brahman being both Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam. Of course, you have Mundaka mantra also, the spider mantra. That also is one of the pramanams. So Ishvara is both the Upadana Karanam as well as the Nimitta Karanam, and therefore Ishvara is nothing but the Karyam alone. The product is also Ishvara, since both the Nimitta Karanam and the Upadana Karanam are Ishvara, the Karyam cannot be different. Karyam also has to be Ishvara. So very important to understand. Unmanifest universe is called Ishvara. Manifest universe is called Jagat. And therefore, again and again, you have to ask yourself, do I believe that this universe exists? I do. Why? Because I exist. And if I believe that I exist, how can I not believe that Brahman exists? And therefore, he says, Tasmat tat sukrutam uchyata iti. Tasmat, therefore, tad uchyate. This Brahman is said to be, uchyate means said to be, tasmat tad uchyate. Therefore, that Brahman is said to be sukrutam iti. So, sukrutam is the word being used, right? And that iti indicates that the Rig mantra referred to earlier, tadapiyesha shloko bhavati. That Rig mantra ends with this iti. So, what is this sukrutam? So, sukrutam normally means what? What is the normal meaning of sukrutam?
Shubh Karya.
Self-created.
No, not self-created. That's a very, very interesting interpretation which I'll come to. But the literal meaning of sukrutam is shubh karyam, which means punyam. Okay. But that meaning is not to be taken over here. So Shankara says sukrutam is equal to swayam kartru, created by himself. Creator by himself. Which means Shankara is saying that this Brahman is referred to as the creator, self-creator. He by himself creates without any other upadana karana. And he says this particular Brahman is known in this world as Swayam Kartara, the self-creator. Means he doesn't create himself, okay? Creates out of himself. But I said the literal meaning is punyam. Literal meaning of sukram is punyam. Why then does Shankara take this meaning? So in the Karma Kanda, I mean, all of you are now familiar with some of the Karma Kanda, right? So when a person performs a yajna, what is the phalam?
Punyam.
Phalam is punyam, right? And that punyam can be encashed in different ways depending upon the sankalpa you make, depending upon the reason for which you are doing the yajna. So before you do the yajna, you make a sankalpa that whatever punyam is being generated from this yajna, let it be used for me in this such a manner. That is sankalpa. And then you do the yajna, the punyam generated has to be used for that purpose, right? Now, therefore, normally, where it is specifically not mentioned that this is the particular phalam of this yajna, you will say the yajna phalam is punyam, and generally the punyam is taken as entry into swarga. So swarga phalam is the phalam, right? Going to heaven. Now remember that Purva Mimamsa, which we discussed in Upadesha Saram. Purva Mimamsa doesn't believe in Ishvara. So in Purva Mimamsa, there is no concept of Ishvara, there is no concept of Karma Phala Data. And the Purva Mimamsika says, Karma alone gives Swarga Phalam. Right? So supposing the person dies, the Yajamana dies after the Yajna. Karma has ended, but the Punyam remains. Punyam remains until such time as it is exhausted. And that is how Swargaphalam is attained. So Purva Mimamsika says that there is no need for any Ishvara. The karma itself generates the phalam. Now we saw in Upadeshasaram that Ramana Maharishi said, how can karma give phalam? Because karma tajjadam. Karma is jadam. Anyway, that's not discussion here. Discussion here is that the Purvamimamsaka says that karma gives phalam, there is no need of Ishvara. Vedantin says we don't require punyam because once karma is done, Ishvara gives the karma phalam. So the punyam as defined in the karma kanda is not necessary for Vedantin because Vedantin says that Ishvara will give the karma phalam. I don't have to worry about the punyam part of it. I do a sankalpa, I do the karma, and Ishvara gives the karma phalam. While the karma kandi says that I am doing the karma for the karma phalam, and the karma itself will give the karma phalam. Therefore, the punyam as defined by the Purvamimamsika does the same function as Ishvara in Vedanta. Both are karma phaladata. The only problem is karma is jadam. So how does it know what punyam to give? Anyway, so obviously Vedanta is superior because we have Ishvara who is sentient, who gives the karma phalam. How can punyam, which is karma, which is again jadam, which is again inert, decide what phalam to give at what time, how to give it? Therefore, Shankara says that this sukratam has to mean Ishvara only. So he says, therefore, however you interpret, whether you interpret from the Purvamimamsika angle or whether you interpret from the Vedanta's angle, the Ishvara is what? Ishvara is that entity which is the bridge connecting the phalam, that is the consequence of the action, to the karta, the doer of the action. And he adds, in Shastram, this word sukrutam is well known as karma phala data, and therefore it means Ishvara. Right? And he gives us one reason for accepting Brahman, because Brahman is the self-creator, Swayam Kartru. And therefore, you have to say that Brahman is very much existent. So these are all reasons why Brahman is existent. Okay. We'll just look at one more. Yadvai tat sukrutam. So, Yadvai tat sukrutam, rasovai saha. Okay, so those two have to be taken together. Yadvai tat sukrutam, rasovai saha. Tat sukrutam. So again, now this sukrutam means what? Ishvara. That Brahman, he says Yadvai, which is indeed rasaha. Rasaha vaisaha. That Brahman is indeed rasaha. What is rasaha? What is rasa?
Essence.
Go through the five indriyas.
Taste.
Taste. Right? Rasaha is taste. Okay. So when you say Brahman is taste, what should be the meaning of rasaha?
Joy.
Joy. So Ananda, right? You are talking about Brahman. This is how what I'm trying to do is I can simply tell you that rasa means Ananda. I'm trying to ensure your minds begin to function in such a manner that in future when you read, you connect automatically. So rasaha is taste. Taste gives Ananda, and therefore Yaduvai rasaha tatsukrutam, that Brahman is nothing but Ananda. Because any Ananda existing in this world is what? Is an evidence of the existence of Brahman. Because there is no Ananda which is Ananda by itself. Every Ananda which you experience is what? It is reflected Ananda. The original Ananda is Brahman alone, you alone. And therefore, to understand that Brahman is the source of Ananda for all Ajnanis also. Okay, why? Because for a Ajnani, it is an external thing which gives you joy. You eat an ice cream, you go for a Himalayan tour, you go for a vacation, you go to the Antarctica. All these expeditions, they give you joy. And actually speaking, that joy is not in those events or experiences. The joy is your own joy. As Brahman Satchit Ananda, Ananda it is. It is part of you only. It is the Ananda principle. Now the question here is, what about a Jnani? How do you know that Brahman is the source of Ananda? Right? So the first thing you have to say is that all Ajnanis, which means 99.9% of the people in this world, they experience joy through the conventional sources of Ananda, like vacations, going for movie, going for a seeing a TV program, going for a music program. All these are experiences of joy. But Shastra says that the Jnani is permanently happy. And the problem with the Jnani is what? The Jnani has renounced all the normal sources of Ananda. He doesn't go for vacations, he doesn't go and see TV, he doesn't go for a music program, he's not supposed to, right? Therefore, he should be miserable because everybody else gets Ananda from experiences, from objects. But the Jnani has no experiences and no objects in his daily life. Should he not be miserable? But he is not miserable. What is the reality? He is always happy. And therefore, you have to, it's called Parishesha Nyaya, meaning when you have eliminated all the possible sources, what remains, that alone must be true. So if you read Sherlock Holmes books, this is one of the ways in which he deduces. He tells Watson that when you eliminated everything which you can think of as a possible cause, whatever remains, however improbable that is, that must be the truth, that must be the cause. So in Sanskrit, it is called Parishesha Nyaya, whatever is left over. And therefore, if you are eliminating all external objects and events and people as the source of Ananda, what is left over? Only you are left over. You, the eliminator, are left over, right? Now, in you, there are various parts. There is the heart, there is the kidney, there is a lung, there is the pancreas, all those things are there. But nobody will claim that I get happiness from my kidney or that my pancreas produces happiness. You don't do that. And therefore, you have to come to the conclusion that in me also, there are 4 parts: Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, and Atma. So Atma and Anatma are 2 parts. Anatma cannot produce happiness. Therefore, what is left over, Parisheshena Nyayena, that is Atma alone. Remember that the Ajnani also gets his happiness from Atma only, but because he does not, cognize the Atma, he thinks he is getting it from the object which is giving him his happiness. So we talked about the dog chewing the dry bone, right? When a dog finds a dry bone and chews and chews and chews, then he feels the blood. And what is the logic? You have to use Anvaya Vyatireka logic. What is that? Before biting bone, no blood. After biting bone, blood. What is the conclusion? Bone alone is the source of blood. What is the problem? Why is the conclusion incorrect?
The blood is his own.
Blood is
It's from his own
blood
self.
is his own blood. The problem is, the defect in the logic is, the blood belongs to the dog and not to the bone. And therefore, the conclusion that bone is the source of blood is incorrect. What is the correct conclusion? Same Anvaya Vyatireka Nyaya. Logic is the same. Before biting bone, no blood. After biting bone, blood. What is the correct conclusion?
The blood came from other source, which is the dog itself.
No, you have in the conclusion you have to bring the bone also, no? Okay. You have to bring the bone into the conclusion. Otherwise, it's not correct conclusion.
The bone revealed what
The-
was.
Yes.
The contribution of the
happens.
bone is to provide a condition for what? For manifesting the blood of the dog. Correct? Agreed?
Yes.
And therefore, applying the same logic to the world, objects, people, events, people also, okay? Object, people, events do not provide ananda, but they provide the condition for the ananda which is already there in you to manifest. The external object or the person or the event, whatever it is, it produces one of the three vrittis, which is that broadly called Shanta vritti, but there are three of them. What are those?
Moda, Pramoda, and
Priya, Moda, Pramoda. All three are classified as Shanta vrittis. Okay. So these objects of the world, which you think, or the people in the world, which you think make you happy, what they do is they provide you the condition for the mind to produce one of these three vrittis. And once the three vritti is manifest, is produced, then it reflects your Ananda Swarupam. Remember, it is only one of these three vrittis which can reflect Ananda. And therefore, happiness or Ananda is the outward or the emotional expression of Purnatva, fulfillment. And unhappiness is an expression of Apurnatvam, non-fulfillment. And therefore, it is that every time you are unhappy, you are missing something or somebody. And every time you are happy, that smile on your face is evidence of the existence of Brahman. And therefore he says, Yadvai Tat Sukrutam. That Brahman alone is called Sukrutam. He gives you Sahavai Rasaha. He gives you happiness. He gives you Rasa. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? All right. So I will urge you to again and again go over these last 2-3 classes. They're very heavy. They need to be completely digested. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Om
patience.
Namah
Thank you,
Shivaya.
Acharya ji.
Om.
Thank you.